Welcome to MannaFest, hosted by international evangelist, teacher, and author Perry Stone. Enjoy unique insight into prophetic and practical truth. It's time to feast on fresh manna, so get ready to be blessed and encouraged. And now, here is your host and teacher, Perry Stone.
Let me begin by saying this, that there are biblical mysteries, and believe it or not, most of them are found in Genesis 1 through 3, mysteries that are difficult to answer. Here's 5 of them. Number 1, was there 6 literal days of creation, or was it a longer period of time? Number 2, the Garden of Eden, where was it located? Number 3, what's the deal with the talking snake? Number 4, what was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that could open up someone's eyes spiritually? Number 5, where did Cain get his wife? Some of the mysteries of the Bible, however, are connected to numbers, they are connected to colors, and they're also connected to types and shadows. And this is one way that God has established us to be able to know what His mysteries are. Biblical numbers have always intrigued me. God uses numbers to reveal prophetic patterns and also insight. The meanings of the numbers are retained in both the Old and the New Testament, meaning once the meaning of a number has been established, it never changes from Genesis all the way to Revelation. The early numbers that we find are found in Genesis 1 through 3 in the story of creation. The number 2, 2 great lights to rule, one the sun and one the moon by day and night. The number 4, 4 rivers flowing out of the Garden of Eden. There's 4 seasons of the year. 4 is an earthly number. The number 6, Adam was created on the 6th day. 6 has always been a number associated with man or mankind, as Revelation 13 bears out. The mark of the beast is 666. The number 7. Why is the number 7 significant? Because in the Genesis account, on the 7th day, God rested. It's called a Shabbat. It means 7. It's the 7th day. And so rest was established on the 7th day, and you have what's called sabbatical cycles in the Old Testament. Every 7th day, every 7th year, every 7 times 7 years was a season of rest. The number 12, however, is what we will discuss for the next few moments. 12 has always intrigued me. 12, or the word 12, is mentioned in the Bible 212 times. Now, the only other number mentioned about that much is the number 7, which is mentioned a few times more than that. 12. Have you ever thought about the number 12 as it connects to creation? For example, we all know that there are 12 main constellations in the circuit of heaven. There are 12 months in a solar year. Now, in ancient Israel, according to John 11:9, Jesus said, "Are there not 12 hours in a day?" The Jews divided the day up between 6 and 6 and 6 and 6. There are also 12 main bones on the torso, 6 at the top and 6 at the bottom. Now, what do you mean by that? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 1, 2, 3, counting the feet, 4, 5, 6, or 12. There's also something interesting concerning the human body. Now, this count can vary depending on if you want to count the very small organs like the appendix. But as far as the major organs of the body, guess how many there are? There are 12. There's the brain, the 2 lungs, the heart, the stomach, the intestines, the 2 kidneys, the liver, the pancreas, the spleen, and the bladder / gallbladder. So again, if you count the smaller ones, you're going to have more, but these are the ones that you need inside of your body to be able to function. Take the heart, the kidneys, or the lungs out, and you're going to die. The number 12 is also interesting when it relates to the human body itself. Now listen very carefully to how God established the human body and links it to the number 12. There are actually 12 vital minerals, according to doctors, needed in the blood for normal tissue development. How odd is that? 12, not 18, 20, or 30, but 12. There are 12 openings in the human body if we count the navel and also the female breast for feeding an infant. We won't go there to all the openings in the body, but there are 12. There are 12 cranial nerves located in the brain that control the thought patterns and the thinking of the brain. There are 24 ribs. 12 on the left side and 12 on the right side. There are 24 total vertebrae in the spine. In other words, When God created the heavens, he sticks the number 12 out there. When God creates the earth, he sticks the number 12 out there. When God creates the human body, he sticks the number 12 out there. Then look in the scripture of how often the number 12 is used. There are 12 princes that came out of Ishmael, Genesis 17:20, 12 tribes out of Jacob, Genesis 35:22, 12 wells of water in Elam, Exodus chapter 15:27, 12 stones on the altar with 12 pillars, Exodus 24, 12 stones on the breastplate of the priest, Exodus 28, 12 cakes on the table of shewbread, Leviticus 24:5, 12 spies sent to spy out the promised land, Deuteronomy 1:23, 12 stones that were in the Jordan River, Joshua 4:9, 12 stones from the river that were made into an altar, 12 cities divided among the 12 tribes, 12 officers in the land to reign over Israel, 12 oxen holding up, I'm getting tired, the huge brass laver in the temple, 1 Kings chapter 7:25. The number 12, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't end there. If we go from the Old Testament into the New Testament, Matthew chapter 10, verse 1, Jesus chose 12 disciples. Revelation 21, verse 14, there are 12 foundations to the city, New Jerusalem. Revelation 21:21, there are 12 gates to the city. It is an absolute fact. Everybody knows this about the number 12, and if you don't, you're about to find out. The number 12 is a number of divine order. The number 12 is a number of divine government, and throughout the Bible you have to understand something about numbers, and that is this: the law of first mention. Where is the number 12 first mentioned? Now when you go to the law of first mention, it gets really kind of odd here, because you have to go later in the book of Genesis for the 12 sons of Ishmael, 12 sons of Jacob, to find the number 12, which doesn't make sense, because every other number is found either in the creation story or earlier than that. Are you still with me? I said, are you still with me? Don't miss this. Back to the Garden of Eden. There was a river that flowed out of Eden, parted into 4 heads, Genesis chapter 2, 10 through 14. And in the midst of the garden was a tree of life. That's why I have a tree behind me, by the way. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 9. There was no curse on the earth at that time. That sounds very familiar to a scripture in Revelation chapter 22, verses 1 through 3. When you come to the very end of time, New Jerusalem comes down on the earth. Let me read this verse to you. He showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruit. Some of you are getting it already. And yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no curse, but the throne of God and the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. Notice the number 12. You don't read it in Genesis chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3, but you read that there's a tree of life in the middle of the garden when you go to Revelation 22, and you want to understand what's on that tree of life. There's 12 kind of fruit every month, but that's 12 months out of a year, which means that the tree of life is manifesting 144. Some of you that know the Bible know what I'm talking about. 144 different manifestations of fruit in an entire year. There were 12. Hey, the number 12 always represents something new, always represents government, always represents order. It took the 12 sons of Jacob to produce a new nation called Israel. It took the 12 apostles of Christ to produce another new nation that is called the church. There are 12 foundations and 12 gates in a new city called the city New Jerusalem. Oh my, the whole, my. The number 12. Now, the number 12, 12 manner of fruit for 12 months, 144 manifestations of fruit. Why is that important? Because on the Temple Mount platform in Jerusalem, where Solomon's temple used to stand, it's 144,000 square meters. Put it together with me. There's 144,000 Jews sealed with the seal of God in the book of Revelation. Oh, yes. The Bible tells you that there are 24 elders sitting around the throne of God with golden vials. That's 12 from the old covenant. That's 12 from the new covenant. That's the 12 apostles of the Lamb. That's the 12 sons of Jacob. I'm totally convinced in that. There was 120 in the upper room. That's 10 multiplied by 12. I don't have time to keep preaching on 12. Let me talk about the tree of life, because it was the tree of life what the Bible said had 12 manner of fruit every month. If you want to know why God kept talking about the number 12, it's because of the 12 manner of fruit that was on the tree of life. Now, when we look at the tree of life, the Bible says it was in the midst of the garden. It says 4 rivers came out of Eden. Now, when we look at the 4 rivers, we know that one of those, it's the Euphrates River. We know where that is. The Hiddekel is the Tigris. They're the same. We know where that is. The Nile River, according to Josephus, is the Gihon, which is mentioned in the book of Genesis. The Pishon River is probably located in Saudi Arabia, where there is, in the land of Havilah, where there is gold. The map that you're looking at right now, we show you on the far right the Tigris River. We show you on the far left the Nile River. Some of you have heard me talk about this in the past, and I've said this, that this was the location of the boundaries. Read it in your Bible, of the Garden of Eden. However, there's an interesting place located in the southern part of Iraq. We put it on the map. It wasn't called Iraq 5,000 years ago, 5,400 years ago. It was called ancient Samaria. Ancient Samaria. And I want to tell you a little bit about ancient Samaria, because that's where civilization began. That whole strip from ancient Samaria all the way toward Israel is where all early civilization began. Why is it important that you understand that? Because here's what I want to tell you. There was a civilization right there with thousands and tens of thousands of people, and Adam was still living. Adam lived to be 970 years of age, ladies and gentlemen. He was still living, or I'm sorry, 930 years of age, and he was still living at the time that this ancient Sumerian civilization existed. Why is it important to understand that? Because of what's called the fossil record. In ancient Samaria, what I'm going to show you, some of the things I'm going to show you are 5,200 years of age or older. Now remember, Adam is still living. Archaeologists have found cylinders, carvings, and fossil remains in that area, which are quite interesting. First of all, they have discovered in several places now snakes with legs on them. Fossils have been discovered in several locations around the world where serpents once had legs. It was discovered on March the 10th, 2000 in Ain Arub near Jerusalem, not far from Ramallah, that they were digging down in a rock quarry and they found something interesting. They found fossils of snakes. These are not lizards. These are snakes that had legs. In fact, they found 62 lizard-like snakes around the world, and they found out that some of these were so large that they could unhinge their jaw and open their mouth real wide like a python or a boa can. Oh my. Now that means that a snake could walk. That doesn't mean a thing to you. Do you understand that in Genesis chapter 3 verse 14, when the serpent tempted Eve, God turned around and said, on your belly you shall crawl all the days of your life, meaning that the snake did not crawl in the beginning of time, but it either flew or it had legs, and the evidence is that it has legs. That's been discovered. Another fossil that has been discovered is a 7-headed snake. Now let me talk about the 7-headed snake. In ancient Samaria, there was a belief in a 7-headed serpent. Remember, Adam, this is 500 years to 800 years into Adam's life, and they are believing in a 7-headed serpent. They found in Samaria, carved on a masthead, a 7-headed serpent in an archaeological excavation. Now here's what's interesting. You got to catch this, folks. This is extremely important. The Hindu religion and the Buddhist religion are older than Christianity. Remember at the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11, all men were what? One language, which means they had the same belief system. Now, the serpent story in the garden is in Genesis 1, 2, and 3, and the tower, when everybody could communicate in the same language, is Genesis chapter 11, and the flood of Noah is 1,658 years after Adam. Are you listening? After the time of Adam's creation. And so after a short period of time, why is it that in the Hindu religion, they have a god with a snake with 7 heads? They also have, Buddha, as a matter of fact, is sitting right underneath the snake with 7 heads. In the Hindu religion and in the Buddhist religion, religions older than Christianity, they have a snake with 7 heads that is considered to be a very high god. See, we in Christianity look at the serpent as a curse, as a picture of Satan. Oddly enough, in the ancient religions, he is the god of extreme wisdom. Now remember, where did that idea come from? I'm going to tell you where I think it came from. It came all the way back in the book of Genesis, where it said, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord hath made. And the Hebrew word subtle is crafty or cunning. The serpent was the most unique creature made, and men started worship. Why is it important to understand a seven-headed snake? It's important to understand it because in Psalm 74:14, Isaiah 27 verse 1, there is a snake with seven heads called Leviathan. In the book of Job, God describes to Job the Leviathan. In Revelation, I saw a dragon. That word dragon is not a mythological dragon. That is the Greek word for serpent, drakon, which is serpent. I saw a serpent, the Bible said, with 7 heads and 10 horns. I'm going to suggest something to you. Don't think it can be proven till we get to heaven. I believe that what made the snake in the garden so unusual, it was a 7-headed snake. Are you with me? You understand where I'm going, Pastor, don't you, with this? Why would there be such mythology? Why would there be such idolatry around a snake with 7 heads? Why would there be at the end of the tribulation a dragon with 7 heads? Unless in that garden was a freak of nature that had been created that had 7 different heads on it, that was crafty, that was cunning. Oh, I wish I had time to prove it. I'll just have to later on preach on the 7-headed snake and go into the Bible and to prove to you what I'm saying, because I can tell by half of you haven't got it yet. Now, let's talk about something that might intrigue you more than a 7-headed snake. I've been intrigued for many years on what a cherub is. A cherub or a cherubim. A cherubim is an angel that guards the presence of God. Bar Magazine, 1995. 5.5 by 4 inches. An ivory carving of what appears to be, according to scholars, an actual cherub. This cherub was found in a storage bin where the archaeologists have excavated an area at the border of Syria and Turkey. It's a carving from 9 BC. Now, if you want to know when 9 BC is, that dates it back to the time of Solomon. Don't miss this. This carving is 300 years before the prophet Ezekiel in chapter 1 and chapter 10 describes a cherubim. Now, when you describe a cherubim in the book of Ezekiel, he has the face of a man, eagle's wings, the front of a lion, and the back of a bull. That creature has the same type of characteristic. It has the wings on it, has the straight legs. If you look over on the far right, this is another form. You can see the calf's feet on it. You can see the straight legs. You can see the rump of the bull. You can see the face, the front part of a lion. And these are in carvings that are 4,000 to 5,000 years of age. I'm telling you that Adam had information. Adam gave it to Seth. Do you understand? Adam saw a cherub with a flaming sword in Genesis chapter 3 guarding the entrance to the tree of life to prevent him from coming back in to eat of the tree of life, that he would live forever in sin. Now, here's what I want to show you. There are images of the tree of life that have been discovered. These are 2,500 BC, 2,500 years before Christ. There's a cylinder seal, 2 people, a man and a woman, with a snake behind her and a mysterious looking tree that they're sitting in front of. There's another one with the tree. Now, this is important. Don't you miss this. This is very significant later on in this message, with a rod shooting straight up out of the ground. Not a tree like you think, but a rod shooting up out of the ground with flowers and pomegranates. Did you just hear what I said for you folks that understand Judaism? Pomegranates growing on the side of it. You can see one of those up there as well. Now, the pomegranate has 613 seeds according to Jewish rabbis. And what's interesting is it's the holiest fruit in the temple. There were bells and pomegranates carved on the bottom of the priestly garment. There was 2 pillars with pomegranates on top as you enter the temple. It's a fruit that has a crown on the top of it. Another tree shows gods. Now, this is important. All of this is from ancient Samaria, the area I showed you in the country of Iraq that dates back where the borders of the Garden of Eden used to be. Another one shows an eagle, a man with an eagle's head. Now, they say that this is a god with someone that has an eagle's head on. I'm going to ask you, why is there in some of these images 2 men with eagle's head guarding a rod, a tree with fruit on it, called the tree of life? Would somebody please explain this to me? The point is that these carvings, these concepts, these ideas go back to the time when Adam and Seth and the early patriarchs were living. Stories were being told of cherubim. Stories were being told of a mysterious tree called a tree of life. And in Genesis 3:22 through 24, God said this, therefore the Lord sent Adam from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, he placed him at the east entrance of the garden, cherubims and a flaming sword. That sword represents the word which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Now in the Old Testament, this is important. Somebody say tree of life. For the next few moments, I'm going to take you on a journey to understanding the tree of life. You think the tree of life was a tree like this, that had all kinds of branches coming off of it with all kinds of trees hanging down. What I want to show you in the next few moments is the tree of life had one rod that came straight up out of the ground, and the tree, instead of coming off on branches, the fruit actually came off of the side of the rod. You're going to hear this in a minute. It blossomed off the side of the rod. Now, how do we know that? We know that because of first of all, the pattern I'm going to show you in a moment. And we know that secondly, by some of these ancient carvings that we just showed you a moment ago, that this tree, and these are scholars who are calling these carvings the tree of life. It's very interesting. Tree of life, book of Genesis, the Hebrew word means a wood, stick, staff, or a tree. The New Testament, tree of life, mentioned in the book of Revelation, the Greek word means a timber, a stick, a club like you hit somebody with, or a tree. Now, here's what I want to show you that's extremely interesting about the tree of life. God does everything in patterns and parallels. And to understand the mystery of the tree of life, you can begin by going back to the very first priest of God, not Melchizedek. He was the first king and priest, but the first priest was Aaron. Now let me take you back to the tabernacle, and I'm going to talk about the rod of Aaron, the blossoming of the rod, but we're about to take you on a journey. Come on, give the Lord a praise, somebody. We're going to take you on a journey in a moment that I've never taken you on before concerning this tree.